Okay, so somebody asked to see from curds to the stretchy part. So I just thought I'd show the curds really quickly. I just cut them and I'm gonna bring them up to 108 and just keep stirring them and just shrinking them up and getting more of the whey separated. This is just about 5 minutes into the process. We're at 100 degrees, so you can see how it changes. All right, so at this stage, it's been about 15-20 minutes. My recipe says to let it set and keep stirring with the stove off for another 20 minutes, but I got things to do and I don't have time for all that. And I've done this enough times that I think it's gonna be fine, so we'll see. But anyway, this is what my curds look like right now. They've come together a little bit, probably because I haven't completely stirred the entire time it says to stir. I get busy doing other things, you know. I'm straightening up the kitchen and getting my surface ready. So I have my cutting board here, my colander. Yes, I put the whey down the drain. I make cheese so often that I just can't save it all and feed it all to the chickens. I do have piglets coming and I'll feed it to the piglets. I'll save it for them when they get here. But anyways, I'll come back and show you what I'm gonna do. Takes a minute for my sink to drain, so I'll just let that continue to drain off for a minute. Sometimes I squeeze them just to get any more liquid in there that might be in there because I was impatient. Anyway, and you can see how your curds all wind up coming together. So I'll leave them set there for a couple minutes. And then I can either go like this and put them into the stretching water like this, or I'll go ahead and squeeze them all together and then I can cut it into a lattice pattern. I'll get a shot of the recipe that I use so that you can screenshot it or something like that. Anyway, I'm gonna get my water, stretching water ready because I did not do that ahead of time to be prepared. So, all right, so I have my pot. I'm gonna use about 1 gallon of water. I just eyeball it, get it to the level that I'm happy with. Now in the recipe it says to use a bowl. I don't do it that way. Do not forget to salt your water. I mean, you can forget if you want, but it won't be as flavorful. So I get this on the stove. Let me see if I can turn it around. Nice. Oh, and here is the recipe that I use. You'll have to stop it and be able to read that or print it or something. Anyway, so I'm gonna get this water boiling. Well, not boiling actually, I'm sorry. Get it up to 170 degrees. Sometimes I kick it up to like 180, 185 because it won't stretch if you're not up to at least 170. And when you add the curds in, it drops the temperature of the water. That's why I do it on the stove instead of in a bowl like they say, because I want to be able to manipulate the temperature still. So here's my cutting board. See, they did kind of solidify a little bit. I mean, I could pull them apart if I wanted, or just cut them in the lattice fashion. But as you can see, they're not going to be like the prettiest lattice, just because some of them came apart in pieces and some of them stayed together. I've found it depends on at what point in my cow's lactation she is as to how this turns out. Like it's always a tiny bit different, just the texture or whatever. But when you put it on pizza and melt it, it's all the same in the end. I just try to make it like a prettier, better product. Maybe leave the cream on a little bit and stuff like that if I'm wanting to try to be fancy and impress my friends. But anyway, so you can see what I've done there. It's just in pieces. And so this is going to go into the stretching water when the stretching water is ready. Also, I don't use cheese salt. As much salt as I use a half a cup each time I make mozzarella. I think it would not be as cost efficient for me. And I'm fine with just plain old salt. So some people want to get fancy, and that's fine too. All right, so I just checked my water and it's at 190. So I shut it off and wanted to show how full of water, more liquid, whey, it's not water, was left after I let it set here and I cut them. So they're ready to go into the water, stretching water now. I have my colander rinsed out and ready to go also for when I'm done stretching. So I will try to turn this around and show the into the water process. And I don't really care about a lattice pattern. I'm just putting it in so it's separated so the salt water can get all through it. I left my thermometer in because I like to obsess over the temperature, see if I'm right. I was at 190 when we started, before I started putting curds in, and I'm at 180 now, dropping. I'm dropping down to 170. So that's perfect. It won't stretch unless it's 170 at least. You can see it's wanting to start to stretch, but it's not quite ready yet. I'm down to 160. I'm gonna give it a minute to make up my mind whether or not I wanna kick the heat on again or not. I don't think we'll have to. My water's down to 158, so I don't know, I might kick it back on again. I'll let it be for a second to warm up just a touch more. I wanted to show the book that I got the recipe out of. It's not my recipe. This is where this came from. So the water's still, it's at 160. 165, 170 is like ideal. That's why it's still a little bit clumpy, because we're only 160. Otherwise it would stretch real shiny and beautiful and smooth. There we go. Thermometer says we're still at 160, but I don't know, it likes that heat a little bit to kick up and get smooth and shiny. She is. So I used a little over 2 gallons of milk. I haven't weighed it. I guess I'll weigh it. But I cut it in half. I date it, put it in a baggie, make sure I write what it is. I'll let it cool on the counter for another half hour or so, and then I'll stick it in the freezer.